to Midpoint. I'm Sean Canan. I'm the host of Midpoint Monday. In a moment, we'll take your calls about a new effort to legalize marijuana in Florida. Nope, not just medical marijuana. We're talking legal recreational use of marijuana by adults. And we'd like to hear your thoughts. Here's how you can join the conversation. The number is 813-239-9663. You can also email your question or comment to dj@wmnf.org. You can also text us at 813-433-0885. A new group will announce its new voter initiative this week. It's called Regulate Florida. It's an effort to amend the state constitution to legalize and regulate marijuana in Florida for adult use. Our guest on the phone today to take your calls about this issue is Ray Strack. He's a supporter of Sensible Florida. That's the political committee that's formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative. Ray Strack is a retired U.S. Customs agent. He's also a member of LEAP. That's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Thanks so much for being on WMNF's Midpoint, Ray.
Well, thank you for having us, Sean. It's really important that we get this message out to as many people as we can.
Well, I'm glad you're a guest on my show, and let's begin with your background. You were a law enforcement officer, but now you think pot should be legal?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I retired in 2010 after serving 27 years with the U.S. government as a criminal investigator and supervisory criminal investigator with the U.S. Customs Service and then later the Department of Homeland Security. I witnessed through the length of that career, the complete ineffectiveness of what we're trying to do. And I always want to say, give kudos to people like myself and all the men and women who are still working in law enforcement. We don't want them to stop working. We want them to concentrate on real dangerous issues. We want to get this drug prohibition policy outside of the criminal system and into the public health system.
A Herald Tribune story about this issue, about Sensible Florida and the Regulate Florida effort, says that when the details of the Regulate Florida initiative are unveiled, it will require the Florida legislature to set rules to license growing, processing, distribution, and retail sales of cannabis, and it would make possession legal. This is something that you support?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very proud that I have been asked to join this campaign. I've lived in Florida for 20 years. Next year will be 20 years. We moved here mid-career. I did a lot of work down here in Florida. And quite frankly, the government in general should get out of people's bedrooms. This is a phrase we've heard over and over. This is a completely consensual adult activity. The only thing dangerous about this is the criminal organizations that currently control it. Let's get them out of the picture. Let's make this safe. Let's regulate marijuana for adult use.
I want to give out the number again because I think our listeners are going to want to weigh in on this issue. The number is 813-239-9663. If you'd like to call and be on the air, you can also email your question or comment to dj@wmnf.org. You can text us at 813-433-0885. My guest is Ray Strack. He's a supporter of Sensible Florida. That's the new political committee that's formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative. And Ray, last November, 57 or 58% of Florida voters supported the medical use of marijuana, but that was less than the 60% needed to pass. And is it likely that full legalization of pot for adult use could be less popular than medical use, and therefore would have less of a chance of reaching that 60% threshold?
Well, it is possible, of course, Sean. But what we want to focus on is, again, the removal of the criminal justice system from this activity. We want to regulate the use. We want to make it safe for everybody. We want to remove the criminal element from control of this exchange. We haven't done. I worked my job for 27 years. We have not, by any measurable, affected the amount of drugs, the cost of drugs. The world is still a dangerous place. We need to use our limited law enforcement resources on horrible, violent crimes, on this backlog of rape cases. I think we're at a great point right now. I think if we get the message out, and we're not against medical marijuana at all. As a matter of fact, most of the usage we see in the states that even legalize marijuana is still for medicinal purposes. The number one goal of the use of marijuana is to ameliorate and help human beings in their process of life.
We have someone who has texted in a question already, and let me see if you can answer it. It's from the 202 area code, and this person is asking, how will legalization of marijuana help the medical patients?
Well, a vast number of reasons. Number one, the current medical marijuana amendment does not allow for home growth. It forces patients to use very limited resources that will be controlled by others than themselves. They won't be able to adjust their medicines, and they won't be able, and it'll be quite a bit more costly. I believe that people can grow their own in a much more cost-effective way, and they can be sure that they have the exact strain that helps them the best. So there are a number of reasons why full regulatory marijuana, not recreational, regulatory marijuana is the step that we're all looking for.
All right, Ray, we're going to go to the phone lines, and I hope I don't drop you off. If I do, just call us back. But
okay.
we have Raj in Clearwater on the air. Hi, Raj. What's on your mind?
Hi, how you doing? I just wanted to call in and give my personal opinion on this. I'm currently doing my residency here in Tampa, so I'm a newly minted medical doctor, and I agree that there needs to be regulation and, full legalization for either, recreational or at least to decriminalize medical marijuana, because the history of medications and how you make medications, even from the pharmaceutical standpoint, is you have to have a lot of people using it, a lot of people, researching it. It has to be available for that sort of thing. Right now, the way things that are standing, there's really nobody getting into it because there's such a stigma. Additionally, I think for patients as well, a lot of patients get a lot of relief, whether it's chronic pain, whether it's for like the Charlotte's Web type of deals in terms of seizures, intractable seizures. Those are the type of things that we're seeing. Of course, there are going to be side effects. There's going to be, if you're smoking it, if you're giving it to children, if there are those sort of things. But that's kind of on a case-to-case basis, is what I'm thinking. And, in 2014, we really tried to get that passed, and it was 2 percentage points off. In terms of the 60%, we had 50% or 58% approval by the people. So I would just, every time somebody comes into my clinic and they say, I wish there was something else that could do for my pain, and they say that, I'm willing to even go down the street to find some sort of dealer, I really feel bad because there are people who are willing to basically break the law in order to get pain management, and we should be able to prescribe that. We should be able to regulate that. So I wholeheartedly agree with this entire discussion. Well,
thanks for that comment, Raj. Do you have anything to respond, Ray?
Well, a couple of things. And first of all, best of luck to you, Raj. The medical profession is a true advocacy and vocation, and best of luck to you. And listen, there are now statistics that show that marijuana is a gateway drug. It is a gateway off of opioids. There has been a 25% drop in opioid deaths in states with medical marijuana. The American Medical Association published that last year. We see over and over that marijuana is a safe alternative. I couldn't, terrific, great comments. And again, one of the things that's holding back all the research is that currently marijuana is still classified as a Schedule I drug, according to the federal government, which means in this Byzantine world that we live in, which means that it has, quote unquote, no medical value. And this flies directly in the face of peer review and academic studies which show that it clearly does have value.
All right. Well, thank you for that call, Raj, and thanks for that response, Ray. Let me go back to a text that we've gotten in from the 727 area code. And this person is asking, will putting this effort for full legalization on the ballot at the very least strengthen the position of the medical marijuana effort as a fallback position? And let me add a little bit to that in saying that it's possible that if this does get on the ballot, if the Regulate Florida initiative gets on the ballot, there might be two. There might be this one and the one that was the medical marijuana. So what would happen then if they're both on the ballot?
Well, we hope that they will be both on the ballot, and we hope that educated voters will vote yes on both. We most of us come from a lifetime of experience, and we have nothing against medical marijuana. Again, I believe strongly that its use as a complete plant with adult discretion is the best remedy. The medical amendment that we may have on our ballot next year doesn't address all those concerns that I have and the rest of the Regulate Florida campaign seeks to put forward.
All right. Well, thank you for that text question from the 727 area code. And let me ask, we can go to the phone. We have several people waiting on the lines.
Okay.
Let's go now to Peter in St. Pete. Hi, Peter. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, how are we doing today?
Well, very good.
Great. Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Excellent. Yeah, good effort. I'm behind it 100%. Being what I would call a medicinal user for probably most of my adult life, I think that it's, first of all, let's look at some of the things that are legal and how dangerous those are. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, apparently between the years 2006 and 2010, there were approximately 88,000 deaths per year from alcohol abuse. And that I don't think that includes the disease aspect. I think it's just acute alcohol poisoning being the main cause of death. So here we have alcohol killing almost 90,000 people every year. Perfectly legal. You can buy it everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Yet a plant that is produced by the Creator, whatever you want to call that was put on this planet for us to use as a healing agent has become criminalized.
Yeah.
And the ultimate questions are, why has that been allowed to happen? So I'm behind this effort. It's obviously, it's going to shake up the status quo about, as far as, who has access to the market for mind-altering substances, whether you want to use it spiritually as an analgesic, whether you want to just use it because it makes you feel good and puts a smile on your face. It should be legalized. Can you explain again where we can find this petition? Is it online only, or is there going to be people in the streets?
Hey, thank you, Peter. Thank you for your comments. And no, we hope to have our formal press release this year with a press conference, and the petition, which is currently in process with the Department of State in Florida, we hope will be a numbered petition before the end of this week. And as soon as that numbered petition comes out, Peter, we're going to be looking for people like you and lots of other people to help us and be petitioners and get involved. I think one of the things that works so well in our message is this is about compassion. This is about allowing people to do what they want safely with good regulation to make sure we can get the criminals out of this thing.
Yeah, there you go. Good point. That's an excellent point, Ray. Hey, thank you very much for what you're doing. Is there a website again, or have you mentioned that?
Yeah, well, we have regulateflorida.com. Okay. And I believe that page has a countdown timer on it to our press release. And we also have a Facebook page, Regulate Florida. So both on Facebook, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook. And the website is active, but it's in its infancy state, and it's got a countdown. But it's all out there, Peter. And all the other listeners, please let's go and like the pages. And if you like the Facebook page, you'll be online to get updates as things come about.
Okay, good tip, Ray. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
Sean.
All right, Peter, thanks so much for that call. And you can call the number too. It's 813-239-9663. You can also email us at dj@wmnf.org. You can text us at 813-433-0885. My name is Sean Canan. You're listening to Midpoint on WMNF Tampa, 88.5 FM. It's 12:21 in the afternoon, and my guest is Ray Strack. He's a supporter of Sensible Florida, and that's the political committee that is formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative to legalize recreational use of marijuana for adults, and that's regulateflorida.com. And I want to ask you about the steps that are coming, Ray. You kind of alluded to something that's happening now. Right now, the initiative is being reviewed by the Florida Division of Elections. If it's passed there, and the supporters that I talked to over last week and so far this week have said that they expect maybe, as you were mentioning, maybe by Wednesday they can unveil the initiative because it's past that hurdle. After that, it would have to pass inspection by the state Supreme Court.
Right.
And then the signature phase would start. And my understanding is that you would need 683,000 verified signatures by Florida voters. Is there enough time to do all of that?
Well, we hope so. And as soon as we get our petition numbered, so as soon as it is approved, the signing can start. Hopefully the petition will be out with a number on it. We can start the signature process this week. We will need boots on the ground. We will need this to be a grassroots effort. I want to make sure that people don't get the feeling that this is for or against any political party. One of the things that happened to us with the medical marijuana initiative, which I was very big part, I did as much as I could last time around on, was that it somehow morphed into a thing that this was a Democratic issue, and so the Republicans didn't get behind it. I want to make sure that people know this is a fact-based initiative. We don't care what party you affiliate yourself with. We want people to evaluate the amendment as it is written. It is a detailed amendment. It will allow for adult regulatory use. It will have in place controls so that it will not be a free-for-all. We want to make sure this is safe. Again, I can't stress it enough because from my background, this is the single biggest reason that I'm a proponent of this, is we have to get the criminals out of this business.
All right, our guest is Ray Strack, a supporter of Sensible Florida. We have some more people on the line. Let's go now to Zebulon in Tampa. Hi, Zebulon.
Yeah, hey, this is Zebulon calling from Tampa.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to voice my support for the initiative. When you look at what's happened in this country ever since they started the so-called war on drugs, marijuana convictions are probably the majority of the convictions that are received, and these are just everyday people. So,
absolutely.
That's all I wanted to say. I'm in an office. I can't talk much longer. But
okay. Hey, let me just say thank you so much for the call, Zebulon. That's right. He's absolutely correct. Currently, over 700,000 people in the United States are arrested for marijuana alone. And approximately 50 to 75% of those arrests are for non-violent possession. No trafficking of any kind, no involvement in any other kind of a crime. This is a low-hanging fruit that uniformed police, law enforcement officers can use to criminalize behavior. This is what we got to change. In Florida alone, 60,000 people a year get arrested for marijuana possession. That's a crime, Sean. That's the crime. The crime is the criminalization of a nonviolent, adult, consensual, victimless behavior. I'm a huge history buff and proponent of cognitive liberty, which is one of the founding elements of our great country. And cognitive liberty, in summary, says if you do no harm, you should be allowed to do what you wish. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Our guest is Ray Strack. He supports the regulateflorida.com initiative to to legalize recreational use of marijuana, rather, in Florida. And you mentioned a few minutes ago that there will be controls in this initiative. And so that leads me to the question, how does your initiative keep children away from accessing marijuana if it does become legal for adults?
Well, sure. Listen, what this is, to me, this is a hollow argument. I'm not from you, Sean. I'm glad you're bringing it up because this is something we want to address head on. When we buy alcohol as adults, that means that children can't go into the store. Nobody under 18 can buy alcohol legally. The store will be put out of business if they sell it. Guess what? If a criminal, if a drug seller on the corner has a 10-year-old walk up to him, he's going to sell the marijuana to a 10-year-old. He's going to sell the marijuana to a high schooler. You know who can't sell it to a high schooler? A store, a regulatory dispensary, a place where your date of birth is checked, where your ID is proofed. That's where that's how it works. That's how it can and should and will work if we're successful. Let's get it into a regulatory environment.
All right, Ray Strack, let's go back to the phone lines. We have Danny in Tampa. Hi, Danny. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ray. Yes, I'm in complete support of what you're proposing. I've been a marijuana smoker since I was 18 years old. Back in the enlightened days, back in the beautiful days of the 60s and the 70s. Matter of fact, I just finished smoking one about 5 minutes ago. I joined. That's right. And you know what? It's my right, like you say, it's my right as a human being because I was born here. I was born out of my mother's womb, and I have not hurting anybody. It's my right to smoke marijuana, listen to Led Zeppelin, listen to Cream, or do whatever I want, go to the beach and not hurt anybody and get the munchies. And it's wonderful. I'm glad that I found it in my life. If I would have missed it, I would have been so sad. And when I was like George Carlin. I smoked it. And I said, no more alcohol and no more cigarettes. For me, it's a beautiful high. And I agree with you that with the way that they're arresting people for nonviolent use of marijuana, and they're not dealing it to kids, and people are just personal possession. It is a tragedy that all these people are in jail, and really and truly, this country is backwards in their thinking on this. So that's all I have to say, Ray, and I'm going to support you, and I'm going to be one of your soldiers on the ground.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you,
Dan brought up some great points, Sean, and going back to, and it's a combination of what Danny said and what you said earlier. We now have studies from Colorado and Washington. Teen use in states with regulatory marijuana goes down, Danny. And there's lots of human psychology at play here, and Sean, there's everybody wants to be cool, but nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants to need something. Nobody wants to become addicted. Nobody needs or wants a crutch. What good education and the states that have regulatory marijuana are doing so well is educating the public and getting things out of the shadows and bringing them into the clear light of day is the way that we can control this.
Ray, we have a question from text, and it's come. Oh, sorry, this is from an email. And Chip in Tampa is asking, would there be less resistance, and therefore would the initiative be easier to pass if it were a decriminalization initiative rather than legalization first? So he's suggesting going to decriminalization first and then full legalization. Would that be something that would be easier to pass?
Well, look, I think, and lots of other people think, that the Florida legislation is not doing its job in many ways. Clearly, in regards to regulatory use of marijuana, I believe they're not doing their job. If we wait for them to do something, nothing will get done. That's what voter initiatives are all about. That's what constitutional amendments are about. The decriminalization movement is very powerful, very effective, and very good. But it still leaves to the officer's discretion whether or not to charge or not charge as a criminal or as a civil violation. In almost all aspects, what that does is continue the disparate treatment of young people and minorities, because those are the people that don't get the break, quote unquote. Those are the people who are still dealt with as if they were criminals. This is, again, a misuse of law enforcement resources and all of our taxpayer dollars. Decriminalization is okay, Sean. It's okay. It's a good thing, but it's not what we're really after.
Well, thanks for that question, Chip. And so I think there's some police departments in the state, like maybe is it Miami Beach, that have begun or are thinking about decriminalizing. Do you know how the results have gone for that so far?
Yeah, very, very, very recent stuff, and most of it happening down here in South Florida. You're right. I'm in Broward County, and Hallandale is, I think, the first city in Broward County to decriminalize. Miami Beach has decriminalized. Again, these are still up to officer discretion. These still leave too much power in the hands of a law enforcement officer on the street who, for whatever reasons, may or may not choose to use the criminal justice system. And what we want to do here is remove it completely. This should not be up to the discretion of any law enforcement official. Hey, look, we have the three big enemies of this movement, from my point of view, are law enforcement agencies, not law enforcement officers, Sean. This is a very important distinction. Then Big Pharma, because, look, in those states where medical marijuana is available, opioid and other pharmaceutical pain medicine goes down. And the third one, which is a horrible development in the United States right now, is what I call the prison industrial complex. And these people make money off of incarcerating human beings. And that's in by any measure, that is just plain wrong.
And Ray, since you mentioned law enforcement agencies and the prison industrial complex, I think this is a good time for me to remind our listeners of your background. Ray Strack is our guest. He's a supporter of Sensible Florida. That's the political committee that is formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative. And Ray is a retired U.S. Customs agent and a member of LEAP. That's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And I'm Sean Canan. I'm the host of Midpoint Monday. It's 12:33 in the afternoon, and we'd like to take your calls. The number is 813-239-9663. You can also email us your question or comment at dj@wmnf.org, or you can join the conversation by text by going to 813-433-0885. George, you're in Lakeland and you've been holding a while. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just agree. I agree we should legalize it, treat it like cigarettes and alcohol. But you had a previous caller that said that it's a plant made by the creator. I think using that argument is going to backfire because cocaine comes from a plant made by the creator. Heroin comes from a plant made by the creator. So don't use that argument if you want to, persuade a few more people. And our state government, they're really, really a bunch of hypocrites, because I guarantee you, most of them probably went to either Florida, Tallahassee, Seminoles, or Miami, and I guarantee you they all tried it when they were in college and when they got out and were young professionals and smoked on weekends. So now to turn around and say we don't want to legalize it, they're a bunch of hypocrites. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, George. Do you have a response to that, Ray?
Well, George is right on in a number of ways. I believe, I'm currently 56 years old, and I believe most people in this general age bracket, what a toddler said to me was new old one time. And that's a funny phrase, but us new old people, us middle-aged people, look, we've seen this progression, this societal change. We've seen this ostracization of marijuana use. I think there was a time when get tough on crimes was the only way to get elected. I think maybe it started with Reagan, but it continued right again. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. Clinton was horrible about it as well. This get tough on crime bought votes, but what it did was it really poisoned the well. It really made America an inhumane place in many ways.
All right, Ray, let's go back to the line. We have Anonymous in St. Pete. You're on the air, and Anonymous, go ahead. What's your comment?
Yeah, hi. I have family who lives in Washington State, and I have gone to visit them before. And I just wanted to say that I've seen how things are set up out there, and it's really impressive. I mean, it's really, really impressive how it's done. It would stand as a really good example for people who are doubtful that regulation could be carried out effectively, because I've seen it for myself.
Great. Yeah, that's right. Look, we luckily we have great examples that we can follow. Washington State has a tremendous regulatory system. Colorado has a great regulatory system. I'm sure that Oregon and Alaska and Washington, D.C. will also have great systems. We don't have to invent anything. We can follow best practices that are currently being, every time, it's kind of like learning any task, right? Every time you watch it get done, you get better at it. So I think, hey, look, we can be the gold standard. We can learn from all of them and do it even better.
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, it was amazing to me because, for instance, outside of one, first of all, they have to be recognized and licensed dispensaries. They get their weed from recognized and licensed growers. They know everything there is to know about the growers. They know exactly what the strains are, how they're made, where they're grown, when they were harvested. You can't even get in the front door of the dispensary unless you've got an ID and can prove you're 21 years old.
Right.
Once you're in there, everybody is really, really knowledgeable. I mean, everybody that works in there are menus that show you exactly what each strain is, how much THC and cannabinoid is in it, and what it might be good for in terms of therapeutic use, for different illnesses and diseases. And I was just really, really impressed. It was all totally above board, totally professional, and everything is completely laid out on the labels, as to what's in it, where it was grown, et cetera, et cetera. I was really impressed.
Well, you've got a leg up on me, Anonymous, because I have not been to Washington yet. Yeah, please, I hope that all of the callers and all of the listeners, when they evaluate this issue and come to their own decision, that they then share their reasoning with others, because a reasoned, informed populace will support this. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, keep up the good work, and I'll be looking for you on Facebook.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Sean.
Anonymous, thanks so much for calling, and I hope you call again. Thanks. You can call, too, 813-239-9663, just like we have Gary in Clearwater. What's on your mind, Gary? All right, we're going to go to email first, just a second. The email says, before 1937, cannabis was sold by every pharmacopoeia in the world. And, Ray, how would you respond to the person that's emailing that it was sold by every pharmacopoeia in the world before 1937?
Yeah, well, there's now anthropological studies that show that marijuana has been used for between 6,000 and 10,000 years, the last article that I read. It's been part of the human pharmacopoeia. It's been part of what we like to call herbal remedies and herbal medicines for as long as humans have been developed as Homo sapiens, I guess, in the last 13,000 years at least. Yeah, look, we just passed our 100-year anniversary of the initial war on drugs. The Harrison Narcotics Act was passed in 1914. it created a system that outlawed hard drugs, but kind of left marijuana alone. And then we had the infamous and horrible Richard Nixon war on drugs, which I believe was a direct response to the peace and love and hippie movements of the 60s or in the early 1970s, and the entrenched, powerful elite were scared, and they came down hard on drug use, and they grouped marijuana in with horrible, dangerous substances inappropriately, and so that's what we're fighting against now. This is I have a poster on my wall that says re-legalize marijuana in the United States. It's our patriotic duty, and I think that's a big part of that. And I think that's why we can reach people who have no interest in using marijuana. This is not only for people who are going to use marijuana. This is a public advocacy for personal cognitive liberty.
All right, we'll go back to the phones. We do have Joe now. Joe, you're on the air. What would you like to say?
Well, first, glad to listen to you. Very informative. I also am fully supportive of legalization. It's obvious when the government put on things like reefer madness and equivalent insane campaigns to color the whole situation. It was ridiculous. It was all based on, influenced by people that tend to make money when it's illegal and lose a lot of money when it's legal. So there's all that. But my question is there medical information available about the possibility of getting cancer, smoking marijuana, and in terms of tobacco and heat being put into the body? Is there anything that equates it to cigarette cancer type of information?
Joe, I'm not a medical doctor, and I know that there is in general some feeling that inhalation of any substance, and especially any superheated substance, is not good for lung health. One of the beauties of regulatory marijuana, and one of the hugest parts of the growth in regulatory marijuana, is non-smokables, edibles, perfumes, tinctures. This is something that can be used without smoking.
All right, thank you for that call, Joe. We appreciate everyone calling. Thanks so much. We also have now Don in Venice, Florida. What's on your mind, Don?
Hi, guys. I just was wondering why this has to be brought up as an issue both for the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana. Why doesn't the government handle the medical marijuana the same as they would any other medication? It has to be approved by, the government for distribution, whether it be a cancer cure or any other type of benefit in the way of medication. Why does this have to go to a vote by state and of the people? Why isn't it handled the other way?
Ray, does that have something to do with the Schedule 1?
Yes, it does, but it also has to do with bureaucracies. I mean, listen, this up till now, this has been a non-starter. Now we are bringing it to the forefront, and we are going to get people on record, get our legislators on record. Where do they stand on this, and why? And they have to answer to the public. And the reason we have to go through this constitutional amendment process is because the legislature is not doing its job. Those were excellent points. Why isn't the government doing this? Why? And again, conspiracy theorists can take off on any number of tangents they want. I personally believe it's as simple as bureaucracies move slowly. They don't move unless they are forced to move. We, the people, can make them move through a number of ways, including constitutional amendments.
All right, Don, thank you for that call. Let's go now to Danny in St. Petersburg. Hi, Danny.
Hi. I just had a brief question. It's about growing and under regulation. Would people be able to grow their own, or is that only under the recreational laws?
Okay, so Danny, there hopefully will be two amendments that you'll be able to see. The medical marijuana amendment that you'll be able to see does not allow growing of any kind. The regulatory, and we don't want to call it recreational because that's not what we want it to be, the regulatory amendment, the Regulate Florida amendment, that amendment will allow for home growth.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
Thank you for that call, Danny. We have an email from Karen, and she's writing, as someone who has visited Colorado since their legalization, she's surprised at how you do not even see anyone smoking on the street or anywhere in public. Cigarettes are still fouling the air outside of buildings, but there's no public evidence of the use of marijuana. Fears of some who believe that it'll be everywhere are unfounded, is what Karen writes in coming from cyberspace. So do you have a response to that, Ray?
Oh, I believe she's right on. That's exactly what all the studies are showing us, not just in Colorado, Washington State as well. This is an adult consensual behavior, generally take part in the privacy of their own homes. And to my knowledge, in all those places, it's illegal to do in public. So, yeah, she's absolutely right on. We see no rise generally. We see all the positives, teen use down, fatal car crashes down, felony crime down, misdemeanor crime down. We have to remove criminal elements. The costs saved by our law enforcement agencies will be amazing. I think in Colorado I saw that $60 million was saved this year alone in court time, police overtime, probation, incarceration, et al. In Colorado, unemployment went from 7% to 4%. 10,000 jobs directly created, tourism up, indirect jobs created, who knows, all the supporting people. But there seems to be no downside to this. Especially if we do it right.
We have Levi in Oak Plantation that wants to ask about this. Hi, Levi.
Levi Jonathan calling from Winter Haven, Oak Plantation. How you doing today? Just wanted to know if both the bills pass, as you said, the medical and the recreational, would one supersede the other one?
No, absolutely not. And what we think would happen was that the medical one will create a state-run system, and like in Washington and Colorado, and I believe all the other states that are going to come online, the benefit of the medical portion is preferential tax treatment. So you pay less taxes for medicine than you pay for a regulated product. If we think alcohol and tobacco, the tax rates are very high. And the tax rates are high so that the government can get some benefit and again take the money out of these cartels and criminal syndicates and get it back to the government, put it back into schools, put it back into infrastructure. So the difference between the two is perhaps will end up being they can both exist together, and one should have a preferential tax treatment.
So are they both constitutional amendments?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Right now, our legislature is not acting unilaterally. They're not acting at all. And quite frankly, they're not even reacting. So both of these, Levi, we hope to get people like yourself and others involved. We'll need to really do some great groundwork. We'll need people to petition and spread the word, and because to get approximately 700,000 approved petitions, we'll probably have to get close to 1 million signed. That's a lot of work, and we only have about 6 months to do it.
bill
So we need everybody to get involved with this, please.
Yes, sir. Does this bill designate the trade to a certain amount of individuals? Like the other one, I believe, was like 5 companies.
Oh no! Now there's 1/3 leg on this pony here, and that's that Charlotte's Web, which is a legislative initiative currently, and that's the 5 growers of the high CBT, low THC strain for Charlotte's Web. The medical one will have very, very strong limitations on who can grow, who can sell. The regulatory one
I'm sorry, that seems backwards. You know what I mean? It's just, but to be more stringent on the medical side, but to be open wouldn't work. Doesn't seem make any sense.
I guess, Levi, I think the kind of the way the system works is the legislative system, they want to control it. They want that. Mm-hmm. The medical system, they still, that's a very restrictive amendment. Again, vote yes. I will vote yes. If it's before me. But what we really want is people to be able to take care of themselves, Levi. And the way to do that is first and foremost to allow for home grow. And that's the single biggest, from my personal perspective, the single biggest shortcoming of the current medical amendment is it does not allow home grow.
Right, because if you want to eliminate the crime, you have to bring the cost down.
That's right. Right on, Levi. That's what we do see in Colorado and in Washington State. If the government regulates so much as to raise the price above the black market price, then the black market continues to exist.
Levi,
now, there's one check on this, Levi, and it's very simple. Would you buy a bottle of alcohol from the street corner that did not have a tax stamp on it, that you did not know was produced safely, even if it cost less than the alcohol in the store? And the answer for almost everybody universally is no. I want to know laws and regulations.
Well,
and that's
I don't drink.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I don't drink alcohol. Well, my fear is that this might give a bump to the medical amendment, and in perception that the medical amendment is, has more safeguards and better for the community or whatever, is a step in, and I just think that one's a disaster.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this bill yet. I'd have to look at it, but
hopefully we're going to have it out to you this week, Levi. Hopefully you're going to get to read it in its entirety. I think you bring up some great points. But again, incrementally, a natural progression, we can move forward on both things at the same time. We will need to educate people as to the differences in both. I have seen comments both ways. I have seen comments saying that I'll vote for medical, but I'd never vote for regulatory. And I've seen others that I'll vote for regulatory, but this medical is no good. So we don't want to divide and conquer. That's a horrible trait of our current socio-political system. We want to bring people together, and in this case, support both, please. That's my message.
Levi, thanks so much for that call. Let's go now to Lazarus in Hudson. And before I do, I want to say that this is WMNF Tampa. You're listening to Midpoint Monday. My name is Sean Canan. My guest is Ray Strack. He's a supporter of Sensible Florida. That's the political committee that's formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative to legalize and regulate marijuana in Florida for adult use. And you're listening to 88.5 FM in Tampa. Lazarus, what's on your mind?
Well, Ray over here pretty much said everything I was going to say in the last 10 minutes or so. If you legalize marijuana, you create tons of jobs, economy goes up, crime goes down. It's all around just a great deal, but there's always been this stigma around it, as he said, ever since the war on drugs and all this other stuff that has never really worked. I mean, if we look at prohibition, then we see exactly what's going on now with drugs pretty much, with marijuana at least. And we knew that it didn't work.
Yeah.
It would never work again, but history repeats itself.
Right on, Lazarus. This analogy to the alcohol prohibition era is direct. It's right on. It's a key point of the message we want to bring forward. We cannot proscribe adult, consensual, non-violent behavior. When we do, We create enemies of each other. We create people who no longer trust the system, because if you're lying to me about this, what else are you lying to me about?
Well, thanks for that call, Lazarus. And let's see if we can squeeze in one more call. Steve in Sarasota, you're on the air, Steve.
Hi, thank you. Just real quick, applaud everything that's being said here today and everything that's being done. I would caution, though, that when you're dealing with the Florida legislature, do not assume that because you pass a constitutional amendment, they will adhere to the spirit of it. If there's any way for them to cheat what you have done, they will do so. And a perfect example of that is the way they've treated the passage of our recent constitutional amendment to protect the environment. They've taken that money and stolen it. So they'll do the same thing to your amendment unless you make sure that they can't. Secondly, what I believe has been done since Nixon, and then in the 80s with Jesse Helms, senator from North Carolina, who single-handedly in one night changed the federal sentencing guidelines, which the states then followed to greatly lengthen and impose mandatory minimum sentences in the federal system, and the states followed right thereafter. Jesse Helms did that because he was a racist and a bigot, and he hated the fact that black people in the North Carolina area were now voters and that they stood up for their rights. And that has been used as a constant tool in this state also. You look at the attitude of the governor and the legislature or the cabinet with their right to allow people to regain their right to vote. How many people get their right to vote after a felony conviction for marijuana? Almost none, zero. They use it as a means of oppression to keep black people from voting. It's always been that way, and they're going to continue that in every way that they can. And so I just I wanted to bring up those points, and good luck to you. We'll be supporting you and doing everything we can. Thank you very much.
Steve, thanks so much for your call, and I also want to thank everyone who called and my guest, Ray Strack. Ray, thanks so much for being a guest on the show today.
Oh, Sean, it was my pleasure, and the audience is fantastic. You must have a great show, because if you have this kind of people tuning into you every day, boy, oh boy. Let's get out there. Let's be reasonable. Let's be informed, and let's spread the word. This is the right thing to do, and this is the right time to do it. Let's regulate Florida.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Ray. And Ray Strack is a supporter of Sensible Florida. That's the political committee that's formed to try to pass the Regulate Florida initiative. That's a state constitution effort to legalize and regulate marijuana in Florida for adult use. He's also a retired U.S. Custom Agent and a member of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. My name is Sean Canan. I'm the host of WMNF News Midpoint Monday.